18-year-old Green Bay teenager accused of setting the fire that killed her baby nephew will head to trial on Monday.
It's expected to last 2 weeks. As we first told you in 2020, Marcelia Fonseca was just 15 years old when Brown County prosecutors charged her with murder as an adult. Fonseca faces 2 felonies, first-degree intentional homicide and arson, for the death of her 11-month-old baby nephew back in June of 2019. Court records say the young child's body was entirely covered with burns ranging in severity.
In a First Alert update, Brittany Schmidt digs through the court documents to explain why it's taken 3 years for the case to reach a trial.
In 2020, our cameras recorded then 15-year-old Marcelia Fonseca making her first court appearance in Brown County Court, accused in the death of her baby nephew. Police say she started a fire in the upstairs bedroom of a home on Wisconsin Avenue on June 7, 2019. In that bedroom, prosecutors say, was Fonseca's 11-month-old nephew sleeping a few feet away in a playpen.
And that she then shut the door when she would have started the fire.
Prosecutors say Fonseca went downstairs, eventually telling her sister that she could smell smoke or chemicals. Investigators say the boy's mother and other family members tried to get the baby out, but couldn't get through the smoke. Prosecutors say investigators went to great lengths ruling out accidental or electrical causes of the fire, determining Fonseca was the last one in that bedroom, that it was intentionally set, and say she showed no remorse about the child's death.
Quite frankly, it's the cavalier attitude that this juvenile has had throughout relating to these offenses. Even when talked to law enforcement about this offense, when she was asked to talk to them about potentially the circumstances of the death of RRDF, she said, "He's gone. So what?"
Lemkuhl also pointed out what she calls a concerning prior history. Documents show Fonseca burned her house in Milwaukee in a second fire. And according to court records, when she was 6, she tried to kill her younger sister, telling investigators she wanted her dead and put a pillow over her head. Court records also detail a Child Protective Services report saying there were concerns of Fonseca harming her younger siblings. And 4 months before the fire, Fonseca's mom went to police saying she wished to give up her parental rights as she could not deal with her anymore.
They are allegations at this point. There is no direct link to Marcelia based on the outline that is in the probable cause section of the criminal complaint.
Just 1 month after being charged, the courts ruled Fonseca incompetent to stand trial in April of 2020. A recheck of her competency that July still found her incompetent. But in October of 2020, the courts found her competent to proceed. The following year, Fonseca's public defenders tried to get her case moved to juvenile court, but that effort was denied. After several evidentiary hearings, the judge agreed to delay the trial in May of 2022. And in September of that year, her attorneys discovered a conflict of interest and recused themselves. The trial once again delayed to give new counsel a chance to get up to speed. Now, after 3 years of several hearings and delays, the 19-year-old's murder trial will begin on Monday, October 16th. It is scheduled to last 2 weeks here in Brown County. Fonseca faces life in prison if convicted. Reporting in Brown County, Brittany Schmidt, Action 2 News.